Oh, hi. I was just hiding in my closet from Godzilla. I'm scared. No, this is actually where I keep my movies. I want to take a look at them. I know how much you YouTube people like looking at all my nerd stuff that I keep behind me when I make YouTube videos, because that's how you do things on the internet. Oh, wait, what's this behind me right now? Oh no. Oh no, what are these? Oh, what are those? Those are garbage. I'm sorry. Um, so this morning I watched Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, the fifth movie in the Godzilla Showa series, and it was pretty good. I liked it almost as much as I liked the previous one, Mothra vs. Godzilla, which I liked that one a lot because it had plentiful monster fighting shenanigans, and the monster shenanigans started fairly early on in the movie. And that's also the case with this one. It's also the case that this one is every bit as batshit crazy as the previous movie was. But this one takes things a step further by having 4 monsters fighting one another instead of just 2. And it was pretty awesome, honestly, I gotta say. This is, I went away from it feeling like I had just seen the equivalent to the Avengers. For what that movie did for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this movie does for the Kaiju Cinematic Universe. There's, you know, there's like the loose connecting threads from previous movies that draw them all together. This movie has the first crossover showing of a monster called Rodan. Am I saying that right? Rodan? It's a big pterodactyl. Pterodon, whatever they're called. He's a big old flying dinosaur, very large, and he spends most of the movie just fighting Godzilla. They don't bother establishing the fact that Godzilla's still alive or anything, because no shit, he's still alive. He just fell down in the last movie, nothing happened to him. So Godzilla and Rodan are just casually fighting throughout most of the background of this movie. And those are like the worst monster fights in the movie, because Rodan doesn't really have a lot of mobility. He's clearly just like a plastic toy, like puppet thing, being suspended by strings and whatnot. His wings don't really flap that much. He doesn't have a lot of articulation, it looks like. But he is very large, and Godzilla is just doing the Godzilla things, whacking stuff with his tail and breathing fire and all that. But what's fascinating about this movie is that while the humans are still, pretty boring, they're not as... Okay, the characters themselves are boring, but the plot is more interesting this time around, because this time we focus on a police officer, I think? I don't know, I saw this movie in English dubbed, so I don't know how much stuff was changed from the original. I couldn't find the Japanese cut of this, anywhere. I actually couldn't find a good download link for this one anywhere. I had to rent it on Amazon, and they don't have it in Japanese. It was stupid. But anyway, so the foreground plot of this movie is that there is a princess from someplace who is a target for assassination, and for some ungodly reason, a race of Martians decides to possess that princess, make her jump out of her own airplane, which was targeted and blown up or whatever. She jumps out of her plane, lands in the ocean, meets a nice fisherman and takes his clothes, and then she goes out in the streets and prophesizes, making speeches to people about how the world is in danger, the world's going to end soon, and you all need to do something about it, but no one does anything about it because she sounds just like a crazy person, even though it seems like a very large crowd of people who are listening to her. Listening attentively, it seems. No one actually does anything. And this is all setting up another subplot where there's just some excavators who are camping out beside this big crater with a big space rock in it, and none of them know what the space rock is. They just know that it has a very strong magnetic pull. All their pickaxes and stuff get yanked towards it multiple times throughout the movie. They don't really talk about it or do anything. It's just the movie kind of reminds you, hey, that, look at that still exists. While this policeman that I mentioned is he finds the princess, and he's trying to protect her from the man who's trying to assassinate her. And while that's going on, they're also trying to figure out why the princess is acting so weird, why she's claiming to be a Martian and other stuff. And while they're doing all that, the twin fairies, who, you know, are part of Mothra, they show up, and they're just like, like Mothra says that there's like a big danger coming and we have to do something about it, like what that Martian woman says is true. And what is it? I'm trying to think, like, it's really easy to get the events in this movie mixed up with the events in the previous one because they both heavily feature Mothra in the beginning. Oh, yeah, I remember now. I remember the way that Mothra is introduced in this movie. It was just some guys on TV doing like a show, and they bring a little boy on, and the boy says, I love Mothra, Mothra's my favorite, and they're like, oh, well, let's get Mothra to say hi on the show, and they bring in the fairies, and the fairies, like, tell them how Mothra is doing, and they say that, you know, obviously in the last movie Mothra died, and now there's 2 larvae that will grow into new Mothras. Apparently one of those larvae died off screen just for the sake of plot convenience, so now there's just one Mothra again, but it's still in its larval state. It's still like a Weedle, you know. It hasn't grown up and gotten any wings yet. It hasn't gone through the metamorphosis. It's just a worm. And this big brown worm with beady little eyes that all it can do is spit silk. It eventually leaves its island and goes to seek out Godzilla and Rodan, who are still fighting. And the reason it does this is because the big space rock that the excavators have been sleeping next to for a few days, about halfway through the movie, the big space rock hatches and opens up, and a giant fucking space dragon bursts out of it. And that space dragon is Ghidorah. I don't know if it's pronounced Ghidorah or Ghidorah. In this movie they said Ghidorah, but I've heard it said both ways. But Ghidorah is this gigantic, badass, 3-headed flying dragon thing that can shoot lightning out of all 3 of its mouths. And it just starts, like, flapping its wings, and it's wrecking buildings to shit just by flapping its wings. And on top of that, it's just going like, just blasting shit all up, wrecking everything. It is the destroyer of worlds. It's the big #1 kaiju. It's bigger than Godzilla. It's the biggest thing ever. And so Mothra eventually finds Godzilla and Rodan and tries to convince them to team up with it to take down Ghidorah together. And we get something very, like, charming and stupid and corny as hell all at once, which is this scene where all the main characters are just onlookers to this, like, meeting of the monsters, and the twin fairies tell them what the monsters are saying to one another. So Godzilla is going like, arr, 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 and the fairies say, oh, Godzilla does not want to help them because he hates the humans. They are very mean to him, and they're like, it's like, whoa, Godzilla has feelings? Like, I didn't see that coming, because honestly, I'm pretty sure they said in the King Kong versus Godzilla movie that Godzilla's brain was like this big. Like, he's not supposed to be capable of that kind of, like, that level of thought. He's just like an instinctual, dumb animal. But I guess this movie retconned that, or maybe King Kong vs. Godzilla is just a stupid movie that doesn't matter in the scheme of things. But either way, this is all just obviously, like, you know, this is the marketing team, like, nudging it in the direction of make it less for adults and more for kids. And, like, this is getting a little bit dumber with every movie, but I'm not bothered by it, honestly. I think it's fascinating. It's fun to see them try out new things with each movie, and I think applying real personalities to Godzilla and Rodan was a really funny way to go about it. And, yeah. I'm trying to think. But no, like, Godzilla is very against the idea of teaming up at first, until Ghidorah shows up and starts kicking his ass to shit, and that's when everything goes just off the wall. Like, it's 3 against 1, basically. It's 3 monsters versus Ghidorah, and it's a really cool fight. Ghidorah himself is so cool. I love the weird, surreal sounding roar he makes, like it sounds like nothing of this earth. And it just, I don't know how they did the special effects on Ghidorah, but I don't know, I'm just super impressed by it. I have no idea how they got the heads to move like that. It doesn't really look like stop motion, and it doesn't really look like a person in a costume either, because it's flying. I really gotta look up how they did the effects for Ghidorah, because for 1964, it's really impressive. Like, I'm kind of in shock that they were able to pull something off like that. Meanwhile, Rodan is just being like a toy airplane, essentially, just flapping around and pecking Godzilla in the head over and over again, just going like, you know, just pecking his nose down. No, the fight with Ghidorah is awesome. You've got, because the way it ends, if I remember correctly, is just that Rodan and Mothra end up trying to hold back Ghidorah and hold it down and restrain it, and, you know, Godzilla's trying to smack him around and smack him down onto the ground and keep him from getting airborne again, but Ghidorah keeps zapping him with his lightning breath or whatever, and Godzilla's kind of running away like, like tries to get closer, and then and then finally he just goes for it, and he goes for the kill. He doesn't kill him, but he wins. He does, like, eventually smack the shit out of him, and if I remember correctly, Ghidorah just kind of flies away, and the monsters all go their separate ways. Like, we did it, we saved the day, we fought him off for now, like, alright, like, he's gonna come back, he's not dead. But I'm not upset about that either, because I want him to come back. I want to see more of Ghidorah. He was awesome. And I can only hope that he'll come back in a movie, like, hopefully soon, you know. Hopefully it's not like another 12 movies before I see him again, because this is only the 5th out of like 30 movies. I've got a ways to go. But for a first time appearance by Ghidorah, I was very impressed. This is a very iconic monster, obviously. He was featured very prominently in the trailer I saw for the new movie, King of the Monsters, where, that trailer had a lot of different monsters in it, though. Like, I think it also had Mothra and Rodan in it. And, yeah, I gotta say, like, I was already pretty hyped just from watching that trailer, but now that I've actually seen these monsters in action, my, like, hype meter is steadily rising with each movie. I think I get the appeal of Godzilla. Like, I really think I could get into it, you know? I'm feeling very optimistic about this. So optimistic that I might just climb out of my closet. The next movie is Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, I think. I think I have that right. So, yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next one.